here is the news. North Korean attacks on the Kum River defense line have been repulsed. The North Korean communists have announced their intention to hold war crimes trials. The British Foreign Office was not consulted by Pandit Nehru before he made his peace move for Korea. Experiments of great importance to the gold mining industry are to be started in Johannesburg soon. Recent experiments with anti-Newcastle disease vaccine have been completely successful. Eskom is to spend £54 million on capital works in the Union. Eric Sturgis has won 3 new tennis titles and has avenged his recent defeat at Wimbledon. Last night's communique from General MacArthur's headquarters said that determined resistance by elements of the 24th Infantry Division repulsed North Korean attacks in the west and central sector of the Kum River defense lines yesterday afternoon. North Korean reinforcements are pouring south into the battle area, and a column of tanks, trucks and artillery was sighted yesterday moving west from Chunghuan to Ansong. Another tank column was seen northwest of Umsong. A communist communique broadcast by Pyongyang radio said the northern forces captured Kongju and Hongson, about 25 miles northwest of Konju, on Saturday. A large number of Americans were killed during the battle for Konju, and war booty, including 105mm guns, were seized. The communique also claimed the capture of Mungyong, south of Chungju, and said that the northern forces continued their advance southward. Today's communique from General MacArthur's headquarters says that there have been no major breakthroughs on the Kum River front. A headquarters spokesman said, however, that there had been some American withdrawals. A North Korean radio announcement said last night that the North Korean government had set up a committee to investigate what it calls war crimes committed by American imperialism and the South Korean government. If Russia or China sends reinforcements to the North Koreans, American troops will be facing 6 to 9 months or even longer fighting in South Korea. This statement was made in Washington yesterday by Senator Millard Tydings, chairman of the United States Senate Armed Services Committee. Reinforcements, said Senator Tydings, were being rushed to the American front line, but it took 25 ships of 10,000 tons each to move a single division and its equipment. Delaying action retreat was the only strategy open to General MacArthur at present, Senator Tydings added. President Truman will send the United States Congress a special message this week asking for funds and authority to carry through a partial mobilization program. This was announced in statements which came from high government officials in Washington yesterday. The officials believe that the President will ask for an increase of several $1,000 million in military appropriations, with the figure estimated to be between $2,000 million and $6,000 million. Between 6 and 9 national divisions are also expected to be called up. Senator Brian McMahon, chairman of the Joint Congressional Atomic Energy Committee, said in Washington yesterday that Russia is working on the hydrogen bomb. Senator McMahon said that the United States should not use the atomic bomb in North Korea. The British government is most anxious to dispel any possible impression in Washington that the Indian Prime Minister, Pandit Nehru, had consulted with the British authorities before he dispatched his peace notes to Washington and Moscow a week ago. The SABC's London correspondent says that he learned authoritatively yesterday that the Foreign Office had informed the American Department of State that it had not been consulted. The Foreign Office emphasized that it was not prepared to appease the communistic aggression in Korea while it was proving military successful. It was stated, however, says our correspondent, that there would be no British comment on the notes by Mr. Nehru, as the United Kingdom was anxious not to promote diplomatic disagreement with India. At the same time, Britain was determined to avoid any action which might possibly weaken the stand taken by the United Nations. Meanwhile, our correspondent understands that the British military chiefs have been instructed by the government to examine Britain's defence position. This is considered to be a measure of the utmost urgency in view of the potentialities created by the Korean situation and the Commonwealth's responsibilities in Malaya, Hong Kong, and elsewhere in Asia. It is understood that extension of the period of conscripted service will be considered by the government. Experiments which will be of vital importance to deep-level mining in the Union are being conducted by the South African Institute for Medical Research. The object of the experiments is to find workers who can adapt themselves to the heat of underground work in gold mines. 14 natives who have offered their services as human guinea pigs will undergo tests in a climatic chamber in which temperature and wind velocity can be controlled. This chamber has been constructed underground at the City Deep mine in Johannesburg. 7 of the natives come from the Union and the other 7 from tropical territories. Their respective physical endurance will be closely studied. Dr. C.H. Wyndham, one of the Institute's scientists, will supervise these experiments. In an interview with an SABC News representative, Dr. Wyndham said that the experiments would take place 6,000 feet underground. He added that a special team of technical observers have already undergone a course of instruction. Everything is now ready for the actual experiments. Dr. Wyndham said that they will last for 1 year initially, but there is every possibility that they may be extended to 5 years. The observers will collate information concerning the resistance and adaptability of the natives to heat. These details will be invaluable to the mining industry, especially in the Free State, where the thermal problem has already arisen. The experiments are being carried out with the cooperation of the Transvaal Chamber of Mines and the National Institute for Building Research. Dr. Wyndham has carried out similar experiments for the British Navy and also in sub-zero cold near the North Pole. Recent experiments with anti-Newcastle disease vaccine have been completely successful. During the past few months, 800 fowls have been experimented upon at Robben Island. The head of the Cape Regional Veterinary Laboratories, Dr. V.R. Kashula, told an SABC News representative in Cape Town that these experiments were completely successful. Last week, inoculations with the vaccine were carried out on a large scale in the Verulam and Avoca districts in Natal. This new vaccine is not yet available for general use, however. It will not be issued to farmers in the Western Cape until October. The Cape Regional Laboratory has already prepared more than 4 million doses, and they will be available to farmers at 2 shillings and 6pence per 100. Dr. Kashula has appealed to members of the public to communicate with the veterinary laboratory, Orange Street, Cape Town, if they find sick or dead wild birds. Experiments are at present being conducted to ascertain whether Newcastle disease is being carried by wild birds. During next year, approximately £54 million will be spent on capital works to supply South Africa with additional electric power. Of this amount, about £26 million will be spent on the Witwatersrand undertaking, which will also supply the new Free State goldfields with power. This information is contained in the annual report of the Electricity Supply Commission. In spite of the difficulty in obtaining materials and equipment, the chairman of the commission, Mr. A.M. Jacobs, has reported remarkable progress. In 1939, the total generating capacity of the commission's power stations was just over 700,000 kilowatts. Last year, it had risen to just short of 1.5 million kilowatts. During the last 10 years, the number of units sold has almost doubled, and the commission's revenue increased from just over £2.5 million to nearly £9 million. More overseas news. In Saigon yesterday, 4 grenades were thrown in the crowded Rue Katina, the quarters of the newly arrived United Nations military mission. But members of the mission were not there. Only 2 grenades exploded, slightly wounding 2 people. An aircraft with Chinese nationalist markings machine-gunned the British motor vessel Glen Erne, north of Formosa. 2 men on board were wounded, one being the chief officer. General MacArthur announced yesterday that the American 7th Fleet is to begin air patrols of the Formosan Straits to prevent any attack on the Chinese nationalist island stronghold. General MacArthur added that he had ordered the 7th Fleet to prevent any attack on Formosa, and as a corollary of this action, he was calling on the Chinese government at Formosa to cease all air and sea operations against the mainland. A copy of a purported secret agreement between Russia and Communist China has been received by the American China Association in New York. This agreement, it was stated, would turn the Chinese army into an international communist force to conquer Southeast Asia and help what is called the liberation of the whole continent. The association, founded in 1946 to support the continuation of the open door policy in China, said it was unable to check the authority of the document. The treaty was dated February the 12th, 1950. The American State Department said it had no comment to make on the report. The mayor of Hiroshima said in Paris on Saturday that he was against the use of the atom bomb in Korea or anywhere else in the world. The mayor, Shinzo Hamai, is a survivor of the atom blast which devastated his city. He said that more than 200,000 people died and not 130,000, as the official estimates claimed. Hamai is now touring Europe as one of a party of 60 Japanese. The Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic Commission for Asia, Dr. P.S. Lokanthan, left Singapore yesterday for Bangkok. He had just concluded conferences with government officials and the British Commissioner General, Sir Malcolm MacDonald. Referring to the Commonwealth Programme for Technical Assistance, Dr. Lokanthan said that he considered the initial provision of £8 million to be reasonably adequate, since it aimed only at technical assistance. Financial aid for development purposes were likely to follow. Russia has taken more than £20,000 million in reparations from the Soviet zone of Germany since 1945, according to a Social Democrat Party memorandum issued in Bonn. This memorandum stated that dismantlings and what was called war trophies removed by the Russians totaled this amount. It was also stated that an especially tragic part of this story was the deportation of many thousands of German industrial and scientific specialists and workmen. With their families, they had been removed to Russia and had in most cases never been heard of again. Sport. In Lausanne yesterday, Eric Sturgis won the men's singles title in the Swiss International Tennis Championships. Then he went on to complete the hat-trick by winning the mixed doubles and the men's doubles titles. In the final of the singles contest, he beat the American Vic Sykes 6-4, 7-5, 3-6, 6-2, and avenged his recent defeat by Sykes at Wimbledon. In the final of the men's doubles, Sturgis and Sykes beat Felicimo Ampon, Philippines, and Sumat Musra, India. In the mixed doubles, Sturgis was partnered by Mrs. Thelma Long of Australia. They beat Sykes and Miss Betty Rosenquist, both of America, 7-5, 6-4. Norman Yardley of Yorkshire will lead England against the West Indies in the third test starting at Trent Bridge, Nottingham on Thursday. 13 English players were selected yesterday, including 2 newcomers to Test cricket. They are DJ Insole, the 24-year-old Essex captain, and Derek Shackleton, an all-rounder from Hampshire. When he won the National Marathon Championship in Moscow yesterday, Feodosi Vanin broke his own Soviet Union marathon record. He covered the distance of 42 kilometers and 195 meters in 2 hours, 29 minutes and 9.4 seconds. This is 9.7 seconds better than the Olympic Games record set up in Berlin in 1937 by Kitai, son of Japan. Unless otherwise stated, the news contained in this service is supplied by the South African Press Association. And that is the end of the news.